America.
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 America?
America.
America. Chris Power.
Molly O'Shea.
I was just going to say America again. You are founder of Hadrian. You're founder of Hadrian. Welcome to Sourcery.
Thank you. It's glad to be here.
I think it's been about like 12, 18 months since you were last on.
Something like that. We've got a much better setup than last time.
What do you mean?
Well, last time I think I was in the office with a bad Zoom background.
Oh,
now
that's
we've
true.
got this incredibly professional setup at ReIndustrialize.
Yeah, we're gonna do a what's it called, like a rolling tour? What's it? You just traveling tour?
Something like that.
I don't know. We'll get an RV.
Okay.
Huge congratulations. You just closed a major next round. Can you share more about how much you raised and from who?
Yeah, happy to share. We just raised another $260 million, equity and factory financing. So Founders Fund and Lux led the round. So $110 million in new equity dollars, as well as new investors like Altimeter. You've interviewed Eric before. He's amazing.
Big fan.
I am a big fan of Eric and Brad. I think what they're doing in Invest America is incredible. And obviously all of our existing investors like Andreessen Horowitz and Construct Capital. But very grateful. Founders Fund and Lux actually led our seed round. So it's great that they're coming back to the table. And we also raised the rest of that $260 million is factory financing from Morgan Stanley, which we're very appreciative of.
So how much have you raised in total now?
For the whole company, I think we're probably up to the 500 range, which is good. But we're actually incredibly capitally efficient. So we have most of the prior round from the Series B still left in the bank. So we're really just using this to put the gas down, which is great.
What was this process like versus previous processes?
It was actually incredible. So, our seed and Series A went very fast. Our Series B was the hardest round we've ever done, which I don't think is uncommon for deep tech companies, because to the market, and I'm sure your audience will appreciate this, is any deep tech company is usually like a deep tech B, but a seed round revenue, and it's always in between. This one we're really lucky where when we launched like the factory to all of our customers in January, we basically 10x'd revenue in 4 quarters last year. The automation was really kicking into gear. No one's ever scaled a manufacturing company this fast. So actually we were done and closed within the round, from starting to pitch to term sheets being signed or a deal done within, I think, 3 weeks.
Wow.
Which is really impressive. But honestly, it's just because we've been working really hard for a year. And then obviously we've had a ton of interest from the existing investor base and new investors to, take a bite at the apple, especially as we're scaling and growing so fast. So we're super lucky. And especially on the factory financing side, we want to use our equity dollars to build more automation, hire more people, hire more salespeople, build better products for customers. We never want to dilute our employees or shareholders with factory financing. And that's a huge part of the story here is, our finance team did an incredibly good job, but I really think it's just the business performance and the hard work of having a big bank like Morgan Stanley come in and lead, the syndication and financing round for the factory expansion capital.
So what does this capital mean for Hadrian?
It means a couple of things. Our factory in LA, which is about 100,000 square foot, we basically filled it in a year from all that customer growth. So we're launching Factory 3 in Arizona, which will be up and running in Christmas. We're in July. We signed the lease a couple of weeks ago, so it'll take us 6 months from start to finish to have it up and running, which I think is really fast. I was actually just looking at photos of all the trucks breaking all the concrete in the factory.
Fun.
Very fun. And we're really excited about expanding to Arizona, and then we hope to be able to launch 3 or 4 new sites next year as well. So obviously scaling so fast, need more factories, as well as just continuing to invest in deeper automation and workforce enablement, as well as more and more products, which we can talk about, because we really are now in a position where for machining, which was our core manufacturing category, we need to R&D out and launch all the machining products of different alloys so that we can be everything to every customer, as well as improve on the customer experience, be faster, be cheaper. But we're also now going to expand into as many of the other manufacturing categories that make up the $100 to $200 billion domestic supply chain market in the US, and really become the manufacturing platform for America's greatest companies, not just in this one category, which is going to continue to be the largest for sure, but expanding out into all those other ones. So, just like a Rippling or other companies where you start with one product, but the goal is actually do everything for all these customers. So we're really excited to bring more products of manufacturing to market to our huge customer base.
So what is the full stack Hadrian set of products?
So we think about it in 3 vertical layers and then horizontal manufacturing capabilities. So the vertical layers are parts, assemblies, and whole products. So think of a part as something that we machine down to incredibly tight tolerances that we hand over to customers and they assemble it. Assemblies are, sub-assemblies, so maybe like a wing, something like that. And then products we think of as full categories, like a whole munitions round, a whole ship, or large parts of it. And if you imagine a factory, our current ones look like data centers. The ones that we're going to launch for whole products look more like, Tesla Model 3 Gigafactory. That's how to visualize it. And then underneath that, there are 6 to 7 major manufacturing capabilities that if you have all of them, one, it's the entire market, and then you can kind of build whatever product you want. So machining, obviously, is always probably going to be the largest one. Additive, we're already up and running on. Casting, which is pouring metal. Forging, which is hammering metal. I like that one. As well as sub-processes like welding, which is huge for the naval applications and scarcity. And what we look for is, where is the customer experience really bad? Or where is there such a lack of skilled labor that, you could pay us $1 billion to go hire a bunch of skilled people and America just doesn't have it more. And that's where we think automation has the highest leverage, not to replace people, but to really give the new workforce 10 times productivity, because we just don't have the people in America anymore to build these, critical hardware for our customers as well as the DoD.
So you mentioned a couple use cases and a couple customers within that. Could you explain further who are your core set of customers and what are the typical things that you're building?
So we don't talk about customers publicly because we sign very strict NDAs with both the government and the primes themselves. I would say we're serving currently the vast majority of hardware startups through our product for Atlas, which our friend helps run. And that's really designed when you're an engineer, you're trying to start your startup super fast and you don't have a huge supply chain team and you don't know what you're doing. So it's kind of full stack supply chain. That's scaling super fast for us. For our core manufacturing business, it's high precision machining. And we work with America's largest scaled primes. So anyone that you would see building fighter jets, drones, munitions, weapons platforms, missiles, commercial aircraft, we are fastly becoming their fastest growing and most important supplier, as well as a huge business in space launch. So high precision components that then get assembled onto rockets and satellites. And for our government business, what we're primarily focused on is naval applications, where there's a huge scarcity of a skilled workforce and we just can't get submarines or ships in the water fast enough, as well as in the munitions categories where there's not much innovation to be done, but you just need to be able to produce a lot very fast, and we just don't have that capability in the US anymore.
Talking about the capability in the US, we are at ReIndustrialize. Big deal.
Big deal.
Big deal, America. I want to talk to you about how you see Hadrian fitting into this picture. Like, what role does Hadrian have in reindustrialization?
So we obviously want to be aggressively in every market, but the problem for the country is so large that we need about 20 Hadrians. I think CapEx heavy or complicated businesses have a unique property. I don't think there's going to be more SpaceXs. I don't think there's going to be more Andurils, of like new defense primes or neo primes. And I don't think there's going to be more than a handful of large industrials companies. It's very hard to get over the scale of CapEx, the operating scale, enough equity dollars to fund ludicrous amounts of software engineering and the capability to go do that. But we think, the founders and I have ReIndustrialized, think about that as not just, defense, advanced manufacturing like us. We think about it as pharmaceuticals, consumer electronics, drones, even biotech. So I was having dinner with a friend last week, and the story with American manufacturing is that the thesis from the 70s was, let's give the Chinese the kind of low-skilled tasks, and we'll outsource more and more of that. But don't worry, we'll always do the design and the advanced stuff. And what has actually happened in reality is when you disconnect production from design, you get very bad at design. And in biotech, this is another area where it used to be that, the scientists over here would, create a new genome or paper or whatever and go test it in China because their labs are very cheap. It turns out now that they're actually faster than us at cloning our papers and making new biotech products, as well as innovating their own products actually at a faster rate than we are. So what we want to see is this industrial movement that does two things. One is brings back all that capability that we've started to offshore, onshore through advanced automation, both in core manufacturing, defense products, biotech, pharmaceuticals. I mean, I don't know if everyone knows this, but we don't really make antibiotics onshore in the US anymore. So if we went to war or China wanted to they were unhappy about the tariffs, they could just shut off the entire antibiotic supply. So it's not just core advanced manufacturing for defense or space. It's all these other important categories that we just kind of assumed we could give away the important infrastructure of the country, and then it would be fine. And now we're finding out across all these categories that's a really dangerous position to be in. So our position is, hopefully we will spawn and inspire, many, many other companies that look and feel like a Hadrian, where it's advanced automation with a new American workforce, but in every single one of these categories. It's a very hard thing to do, but everyone needs to be in this together. And, one of the things I often say is it's brutally difficult, but you too can do it. You just have to kind of go west, young man or woman. But we actually need huge investment in all of this. The second thing is I do think we're paving the way on how to finance factories better than anybody else. It's always been a core part of our skill set is how to financially engineer. Because if you really think about heavy CapEx businesses, there are really only two ways to get a venture return. And manufacturers in the US are horrifically low margin, right? So you have to have a margin profile through automation, building a better product that venture returns can support. And the second thing is there are only a very few markets like space where NASA will pay you up front for missions, so you can kind of flow your business correctly and actually have the returns profiles of a large public company that venture capitals will fund. So from a mission perspective, you actually have to solve that. And I think we're proving to the market that the industrials category is huge IRRs on kind of return basis if you finance them correctly, and then also paving the way where, these big providers did not know how to fund AI data centers 5 years ago. Our CFO is from Solar City, and when that huge solar revolution was happening, it's obviously really CapEx heavy, and no one knew how to underwrite the solar market to fund all this huge cash going into these businesses. So I think that is one of the more important things we're doing is really connecting the dots on the financing side for massive factory expansion that I do think is quickly setting the standard of how to reindustrialize the country.
Sourcery is brought to you by Brex, the financial stack trusted by more than 30,000 companies, including 1 in 3 venture-backed startups in the US. Nearly 40% of startups fail because they run out of cash. Brex is literally built to help founders avoid that. Unlike traditional banks that let your money sit idle, chipping away at it with fees, Brex is designed to help you spend smarter and move faster. Their all-in-one solution combines checking, treasury, and FDIC protection into one powerful account. You can send and receive money globally at lightning speeds, get 20 times the standard FDIC coverage through their partner banks, and even high yield from day one. With same-day and even same-hour liquidity, access your funds anytime. Companies like Scale AI, DoorDash, ServiceTitan, Hims, Anthropic, Flexport, Robinhood, and Plaid trust and use Brex. Start today at brex.com/sorcery. That's BREX.com/sorcery. In today's high-speed business world, staying ahead means using the smartest tools possible, including the powerful capabilities of artificial intelligence meet Turing intelligence. Turing builds customizable AI systems designed to solve your mission-critical challenges no matter your industry. From expert guidance to tailored projects, Turing helps top companies realize AI that's more capable, more adaptable, and more effective. With Turing, discover how AI can accelerate your business growth. Visit turing.com/sorcery, SOURCERY, to learn more. That's turing.com/sorcery. Talking macro, what was the biggest difference that you've seen so far between this year's ReIndustrialize and last year's?
So last year, we really pulled it together on a whim because we thought it was the right moment to try and light this fire under everyone's belly. And this year, I think what we're seeing is that, especially with the shortage of weapon systems to Ukraine, Israel, and Iran, certainly the shortage in Taiwan, is that production and manufacturing are critically important. And I think the second thing we're seeing is much, much more senior people from the administration, from Ambassador Greer at Trade, Secretary Phelan from the Navy, and all these people that really understand the mission and believe it and want to work with all sides of policy, regulation, the DoD, and small and large companies to try and make this thing happen. And I also think now, like with a lot of the policies being passed, especially in things like nuclear energy, I mean, we're finally going to have nuclear reactors being tested for the first time in, I think, like several decades. And energy is such a critically important thing. So the wait list, I think, is up to 6,000 now. Couldn't fit everyone in. And now it's like a
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And we're just really, really happy that people are getting bought in on the mission and are starting to understand how important it is and how fragmented the country is, because we offshored everyone's good paying jobs and really screwed over the American worker for the better part of 4 decades.
You had a lovely keynote in the beginning.
Thank you.
There's something that you brought up that you bring up quite a lot. You talk about this 10-year window.
Yeah.
Can you explain what the 10-year window is?
So the specific 10-year window we're in is what's called the Davidson window, which is Admiral Davidson first started talking about this a couple of years ago. And the highest risk of China, when we are the weakest and China is the strongest and has to be the most aggressive to take the Pacific theater, which will start with Taiwan, but they won't stop with Taiwan, and everyone knows Taiwan is basically the Arrakis from the Dune books of, semiconductors for AI. And this is pretty well mapped, and you can see both sides are gearing up for, right now I think we're in a Cold War where everyone's gearing up for kind of Bay of Pigs. But certainly I think the Chinese have said pretty religiously over the last couple of 100 years that they're going to repatriate Taiwan, and I think that's a pretty hard red line for us in terms of their aggression. So that window is basically 2027 to 2037. So that is kind of a known quantum now in defense. And then historically, this is not unusual. Every great power gets challenged by a developing power. This has happened every 120 years for the last thing, and we're just in that moment in that 10 to 20 year window where this is going to happen. The second thing that makes it, in my opinion, likely is the one-child policy in China. So for those of you who don't know, China passed a rule saying you can only have one kid. Everyone picked boys, which was horrific. But we just have to last till about 2037, 2042, and then kind of overnight, China's working population will cut in half, and then they can try again in another 1,000 years. So that will put a lot of pressure, in our opinion, on Xi to actually do something, because they have this window, and after that, they won't have the fighting force. Their economy will start to collapse. So there's a real pressure cooker going over there, which is why we've got this 4 to 6 year massive defense industrial base push going on, because we actually really have to be prepared. The goal is to never get into a war, but all great conflicts start when both sides misinterpret how strong the other one is. And I think we are misinterpreting how robust our industrial base is to rebuild things like ships or munitions if we need to. And I think the Chinese are overestimating themselves a little bit. But when both sides decide, both of them are wrong and it's time for a test, it's like 2 idiots sizing themselves up in a bar fight. Or like I said on stage, Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas, where everyone's getting a little bit too comfortable. But that is the window that we are in history, and we're going to find out who's got the best system, I think, in the next decade.
With trends, whether it's technology or politics or even warfare accelerating so fast, we're seeing cycles increase in speed. Do you think that's going to play a role in this? Like, is the next war going to be shorter than the last?
It's hard to tell. I mean, my argument has been that the Chinese are at war with us and we're just too stupid to understand it, because Americans only respond to getting punched in the face. The fentanyl crisis in San Francisco is Chinese aggression. They're just still very angry at us for, well, not us, but the British for destroying them with opium in the 1800s. We were incredibly vulnerable on cybersecurity. They could shut down LA water pretty quickly and everyone would, be in a really bad position. So I think the cycles that are accelerating are huge gains in AI in terms of how fast you can do automation. Huge gains in information, which are leading people to make decisions quicker. And certainly the DoD is speeding up like extremely rapidly compared to 5 years ago. I think the challenge that we face is that we build factories fast, but if you think about this on the sort of, we're talking about like a quantum of shipbuilding of like, I think it's 1,700 last year of commercial and military vessels versus 5. So the kind of quantum of, you kind of like need to spend $6 billion now, and you'll have that capability in 2 to 4 years to get these things up and running and train the workforce at that level of kind of 1,000 to 1 scale. So I think the information is flowing faster. These big capital equipment moves and building shipyards or building massive new munitions plant, we'll do it faster than anybody else. But in terms of this 4 to 5 year window, we need to really be spending the dollars in the next like 18 months.
Recently, I saw you comment or engage with a tweet about YC's recent request for startups. So they recently put out a request based on a simple belief, I will quote, "America needs better physical technology and startups are the best way to build it and scale it." You had a pretty, I'd say, collaborative response to that rather than seeing it as competition. You're like, no, we need more of these. So could you explain more about your position on that and how you would help engage this environment?
Yeah, so I think that you've got to remember that there are kind of 4 big categories, right? There's these huge industrial companies, like a Raytheon, like a GE, who need to upgrade themselves very rapidly. There are new industrial companies like Hadrian who are starting from a clean sheet. There are 30,000 small manufacturing businesses in the US that are super important, even in things like making steel, that have been completely unsupported by technology, including AI, for decades. And then there's obviously the new primes. So my view is like, one, there's plenty of software products out there to go build for all these companies. Secondly, there are many micro categories of manufacturing, just like OpenAI and AI won't do everything. They will do the vast majority, but for this level of mission, you kind of need everything. I think it's great. I mean, the number one thing that we did that was important was have software engineers get excited about automating manufacturing again versus getting stuck at Google, optimizing ad clicks or trading cat pictures on the internet. So I think YC stepping into this just for the fact of getting like Stanford and Harvard kids and, kids from the Midwest back involved in building software for the real world is really culturally important for the country. The second thing is I think it'll generate a bunch of great acquisitions for us. If any of them grow too fast in the category that we're going to enter, we have this phrase internally, which is we're either going to scoop them up or we're going to bonk them. But that's fine. I think for the country, we need like orders of magnitude more than this. And I also think competition is really good. It's, that's the best thing about America. I need more people to keep me awake at night other than President Xi. And I think it's overall a great thing.
You have a dartboard in your office, right?
I do have a dartboard in my office.
We don't need to tell anybody about that.
I think everyone's seen it.
So I think like going further down the technological route and advancements in AI, in AGI, now we're gearing towards super intelligence. A company I recently came across was Turing, and they're helping build and deploy next-gen AGI within real-world industries. So I have to ask you, has AGI hit manufacturing yet?
Yes and no. We use AI in the vast majority of our technology stack now. Manufacturing is so complicated that our strategy has always been automate 70% of a task. And secondly, people don't understand a lot of advanced manufacturing is working with really dumb computers that drive machines. They run on code. Or digital manufacturing where you're telling a computer something to do. So it's actually really good for software and AI. And our strategy has always been very quickly automate 70% of something and then have humans in the loop that are training models that we can then make our systems smarter and smarter over time. Where we have a huge advantage is we invested a lot of money in the connected systems to be able to track all that data across the entire factory, both at the process level and at the part level. And what we found was we have to basically train our own models, one, because it's in a regulated environment, so it's ITAR, you can't just use something off the shelf. So there's a huge barrier to entry. And secondly, because manufacturing in the United States has been offline for 30 years, there's no Stack Overflow, there's no GitHub, there's no code base to train on. So we're the only company that's actually generating labeled data that you can then train models around for advanced manufacturing in the US. The models themselves are quite difficult, but the main actual leverage is the faster we scale, the more labeled data we have, the easier training these models gets. And it's very hard to make synthetic data in this environment. So I think we're probably the only company actually doing AI in manufacturing that's like scalable. And the core thing is no one else has the data set and you can't make it available online. So we're seeing this happen very fast. I think it will continue to accelerate, especially as the like core models like OpenAI and Claude and stuff get faster and faster and faster and faster. And I do think it'll be a massive accelerant for us spinning up new business units. But in that category, I don't think anyone else is going to be able to touch us because no one else has the labeled data.
Super Hadrian.
Super Hadrian. That's it.
One of Sourcery's partners is Brex. They're all about performance, spending smarter, moving faster. How is Hadrian thinking about their next milestones that you want to hit, and what metrics are you using to determine them?
Obviously, revenue growth rate, operating efficiency, the entire factory is a big metrics puzzle. Obviously, launching our Arizona facility like on time, and then launching subsequent facilities as fast as possible, and hitting all these like product launch goals, which gets more and more complicated over time. But really, our job is to train better workforce every day, build better automation every day so that the customer experiences get better, we're faster, cheaper, and now, get to this point where, we want to be close to $1 billion in top line by like 2027. It's a lot of factories, a lot of financing.
A year and a half.
Yeah, it'd probably take more than that, but I like to go aggressive and get 70% of the way there.
Good goal.
Good goal.
Good goal.
America.
This is a hot topic question, and I'm really curious about your response on it. But on Kalshi, there's currently an 18% chance that Trump brings back manufacturing in the U.S. What do you think about that?
What do I think about Kalshi, or what do I think Trump bringing back manufacturing in the U.S.?
Manufacturing in the U.S.
I think the tariffs has got to stick around. I think in the DoD categories it has to. Either it's pretty binary. Either you believe we're going to build a fuckload of factories very quickly, or the big beautiful bill was a waste because we're not going to have any defense spend to be doing. So I think it's pretty binary. So I choose to believe the former. I think you're seeing tons of companies build back manufacturing in America. There's been generationally huge investments, but I also think it's going to take a decade of sustained policy to go do it properly. So it has to survive multiple terms of the sustained tariff or subsidy policy to really reinvigorate it. But I think the answer is yes. I would take that bet. I think they're selling, dollars for 18 cents.
Too low.
$1 for 18 cents. Yeah.
Okay.
We should actually put all of the equity capital into that bet.
Do it.
I would get fired.
$260 million.
Just to be clear for all our investors, we are very prudent with our use of capital.
Well, if you did that, you wouldn't be able to actually achieve it if you want to reindustrialize.
But yes, this is only personal advice. I think Kalshi's selling dollars for 18 cents on that bet.
Sounds like a good trade. This one's also a hot topic for you, and you're a macroeconomist. So when will the next U.S. recession start?
Oh, that's a great question. I think in 2 to 3 years' time.
Okay.
I think that we have so much headroom in the Federal Reserve rate that I think we're going to see dramatic cuts close to 2021 ZIRP levels over the next 12 months. And I do think we're seeing a lot of overheating in public equity valuations and late stage private. But because the Fed rate is still at, I think it's like 4.5%, 5% or something like that. That's a lot of headroom to bring back down so that LPs rotate into venture and the growth economy keeps going. I also think that the reinvigoration of deregulation is always huge for growth. Focusing on the American workforce, bringing back a lot of cash from tariffs. And if you look at my favorite macroeconomist, which is Zero Hedge, which is the only real economics these days, it seems like the rest of the world is actually not passing on any of the tariffs to the American consumer, which is great. So my bet is, I do think if we pull this off and, Federal Reserve does some dot and line graphs and we tick down to we won't get to ZIRP rates, but we'll get pretty close in my opinion. And even if you see a halving from 4.5% to 2.25, that's a lot of momentum back in the economy. So we'll see, but my guess is it's years away and we've got, 2 or 3 good years before the wheels start falling off.
Okay. Kalshi has it as Q3 2025.
I disagree.
Got a couple weeks.
What's the strike price on that?
It's like 15%.
There you go. That's another. They're selling dollars for 15 cents.
As we close out, I want to end on an even juicier question. Do you think Trump will make a new free trade agreement with China?
I'm not sure. I think we're playing a 5 to 10 year game where everything will trade all the time. Depends what happens. That's a very hard prediction to make. Yeah. Free trade agreement? No.
Free trade agreement.
And honestly, we can call it a free trade agreement, but China hasn't played by any free trade rules. They continually break all the World Trade Organization rules. There is no free trade agreement. Is it going to get continually negotiated for different parts of the economy as we reindustrialize and we continue to negotiate and play that power game? 100%. Is there going to be a blanket free trade Nixon World Trade Organization agreement? No, I don't think so. I think we're done.
Okay. Sounds like you can have the upper hand on this one. Right now it's at 29%.
I think it depends on the definition of free trade agreement, but again, I think you're selling dollars with 29 cents there.
Okay. Well, Chris, it was wonderful to have you on yet again.
Thank you.
More funding, more factories, and more America.
And more source reviews.
And more sorcery.
Like we say at Hadrian, graph go up.
It only goes up.
It only goes up.
We're here in Detroit, the epicenter of America. I had some crazy news when I landed.
What's the news?
We're right next to Canada.
Seriously?
Did you know that?
The 51st state?
Yes.
Wow.
No, I think it's 52nd.
Oh, behind the moon?
Behind the moon.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know this?
I did. I think that's what the protesters were screaming about because they were grumpy about the communists joining the American empire.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that's what they were banging on the drum. Yeah, please don't take us over and give us a better quality of life and freedom. It's very silly to me.
That was what they were protesting?
Yeah, the heart of American manufacturing is on the border to Canada. Who would have thought?
Well, now it's America.
America.
America, America.
America, America.
Yeah.
Yeah, North America.
I've been told I shouldn't go walking around because if I walk across the bridge right now, I can't come back.
That would be, I think, an international incident, having the Canadians kidnap one of our top American podcasters as leverage in the trade agreement.
Kind of sounds like a good idea. I don't know.
I don't know. But we are in the heart of reindustrializing America here in Detroit and across the border with Canada. And maybe we'll have one day factories on the moon.
I agree to all of that. I think we should make it happen, and it starts today at ReIndustrialize.
I agree. Let's put all the Kalshi dollars we make from making arbitrage bets into the moon. Like, it's a great idea.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Molly.
There you go. Love premium merch just as much as we do? That's why Sourcery uses Fourth Wall. Everyone from creators like Marcus Brownlee to podcasts like Acquired to orgs like the Smithsonian Institute are using Fourth Wall. They let you create and sell premium products without having to stress the details. They handle everything from production, shipping, customer support, taxes, even giveaways. When it's time to level up and make gear that people are actually proud to wear, that's when it's time to use Fourth Wall. And that's why we've trusted Fourth Wall for all of our brand wear at Sourcery since day one. Use my link in the description to get free credits for your first order. And for any VCs, DM me on X, and I can get all your portfolio companies set up with a free samples credit deal.